Graham Platner says that he will be formally dropping out on Monday. So that's done. It looks like, unfortunately, the DNC is going with their deep state pick process on the back end. We're not having an open, quick election. It seems like they're going to be doing their, back end smoke-filled room pick on who gets to replace Platner. And I'll get more into that in a bit.
Hey everyone, it's Graham Platner here.
Really?
I think as many of you know, over the past couple days, I have faced some very serious allegations, and I just want to make it clear, this is all false.
All
the
right.
things that have been claimed did not happen. It's not real.
Hold on, this audio sucks. Maybe it's better on his actual...
Hey everyone.
Nope, it's exactly the same on his... Whatever. Hey, people.
It has placed an immense amount of weight on me as I think about what needs to happen now. Amy and I are regular people. We were not looking for this experience. We were not looking to get into politics. We had no desire to run for office. I just want you to think about what you would do as a regular person in a position where a much larger world, large forces were working against you personally to accuse you of the worst thing that a person could do, and it was not remotely true. I learned about this through press inquiries, with no time to truly respond, no time for investigations before a corporate media system and the political establishment.
So we're going for the conspiracy angle here. Look, obviously, anytime a news organization runs a story like a hit piece or an allegation against a candidate, it's part of a broader media effort to take down that candidate. That's how it works. That's always how it works. Is Politico like a Zionist rag? Yeah. I mean, sure. Of course, they were delighted to publish this. But that doesn't really address the problem here, you know? It's not, I'm sorry, man. It's corroborated. I don't know what you want. It's pretty difficult to argue with.
Got to act as judge, jury, and executioner. Accusations are supposed to be the beginning of things, not the end. I think it's really important to understand why this is happening in the timeline, why this is happening right now. Much like October, when the first attack started, much like the news that was created the week before the primary, there is a reason that this is happening now. I only have until July 13th until I am officially the nominee. This was the last week to try to get me off of the ballot. And that's why this is occurring. It's not the false allegations, though, that have brought us to where we are. It's the fact that they are being used by the political establishment.
Is it fair to say I obviously believe Jenny Rascott right now, but it wouldn't be surprised and would also change my mind if it came out this was a manufactured hit piece? So, again, the problem here is that Jenny Rascott has messages between herself and multiple people from before Graham Platner ran corroborating her story. So, that's the barrier here. Now, is it possible that this is still fake in some sense or another? I mean, anything's possible. You can always defer to that. You can never fully prove anything of this nature. It's not, we're not replicating science experiment results in a lab. But the standard of proof has been met. Is it like a super well-coordinated deep state media conspiracy? I guess like anything's possible. I feel like if the media was capable of pulling out stops like that, though, like manufacturing evidence to that extent, they probably would have pulled it against Mamdani too. I think also it's worth remembering that Platner was able to pretty well shrug off a number of like really bad controversies before this point, you know? Like, this is not an example of everyone dropping Platner the moment the deep state comes up with anything against him. The deep state, by which I mean Platner, has done quite a bit to his own reputation. The Nazi tattoo, that's pretty bad. The going, Blackwater mercenary 17 tours thing, that's pretty bad. The multiple women in his past coming out with accusations against him, admittedly, the worst of which is from a Republican operative, that's bad. But now more has come out, and it's like, I really don't think the difference here is that we're all suddenly like leaving aside our criticisms of the bias of the media or whatever. It's just that this accusation seems to be pretty well corroborated. If it wasn't corroborated and it was literally a he said, she said, I wouldn't have anything to say about it. Not because I don't necessarily believe her, but because that would be an extremely easy accusation to manufacture, Like, when we're dealing with stakes as high as a Senate seat, I would like some degree of evidence, and she's provided a very solid piece of evidence. Is there a possibility he genuinely doesn't remember? I mean, I'm just pitching a guess here, but like, he probably doesn't think he did it. The account is that he was blackout drunk and that he raped her, and then he passed out on the bed, and the next morning he didn't seem to remember what had happened. So, like, even from her account, he wouldn't remember. And he probably thinks he didn't do it, because if you were an alcoholic who occasionally got blackout drunk, would you want to believe that during one of those sessions you raped somebody? Probably not. So it's not like, again, it's like, what are you going to do? Probably best to find political candidates who aren't like riddled with controversies and don't have a history of getting blackout drunk, He surely remembers being kicked out and told never to talk to her again, though. He would remember that. The problem is that he's just flat out denying everything. He's not explaining what he does and doesn't remember. Like, if he said, not only is this account false, but I don't recall, I never even like woke up in her bed, then that would be like a more specific denial that would at least invite a conversation on the subject. But him just like shrugging and going, this is all fake, doesn't really give us much room to assess the validity of his claims, you know what I mean? Like, we don't really have a lot to go off of there. Platner in the Senate would be a net positive. The genocide in Gaza would end. I'm really, really, really sorry. It absolutely wouldn't. I don't know what makes you think that having one more Democratic senator is going to end the genocide in Gaza. I agree that politically he's preferable to Collins, but it would be more detrimental to the progressive movement as a whole for us to pitch our support behind a rapist, Mamdani should be a lesson to all of us that in spite of how bad things have gotten, there is genuinely a lot of value in being disciplined, well-coordinated, civil, and having good presentable optics. Mamdani has only grown in popularity because he's like a fucking machine when it comes to controlling his image. We don't, like, I understand that Trump has gotten away with a lot of stuff, but we aren't like Republican voters. Republican voters will gleefully accept pedophile rapist candidates because they love that. They don't care. But you can't do that with like the broader progressive liberal moderate establishment. You can't do that with an electorate that's opposed to rape and opposed to pedophilia, We have higher standards. Why'd Matt Gaetz get cockblocked? I mean, I feel like they were just up in the air about it. Like, Matt Gaetz very nearly made it in as AG. Just like a last second, oh yeah, go with Pam Bondi instead. Could have well happened. Also, yeah, he was pretty unpopular anyway.
To put structural pressure on us. We live in a political system that is not built for normal people. It is a system that is built structurally to make sure that movements like ours cannot flourish. That if they begin to succeed, they can be crushed. What we have accomplished here, you made possible. The people of Maine, the volunteers, the voters, the grassroots donors, and I have all the faith in the world that we could win if we could continue to harness that. But the brutal political reality is that they are going to take everything away from us.
The fact he's issuing just a generic blanket denial makes me so suspicious. Yeah, like, think about this from an outside perspective, you know? Like, leaving aside the claim made by Rassicot, what we have here is an on and off semi-serious relationship between two adults who are having sex and dating, and then at a point something happened, and afterwards she went no contact and told him to never contact me again. This should be something from which there's like a mountain of evidence to pull from, or at least lots of like points to get at. I feel like if he was going to be denying the points made here, he would have to supply more than nuh-uh. It's not like a random... It would be different if it was a random accusation from like a woman he met at a party, but never again. If it was that, then it's like, okay, how much can you even corroborate here? Like, if they had no prior relationship, there wouldn't be much of like a broader social effect to this. Even if he had raped her, like, how many people would know? How many friends would, like, who would, what's like the imprint of this? But in this case, they were in a relationship, and afterwards, according to her, they went no contact. Does he have nothing to say? What's his explanation for why they went no contact? Does he think they didn't go no contact? Is his claim like, no, we didn't go no contact? Did something happen, but he thinks it wasn't rape? How would he know it wasn't rape if he was blackout drunk? Is he saying he didn't go to the house at all? Like, none of these are being addressed. He's just blanket denying it.
Those in power who have the...
Shouldn't he be arrested if there's evidence? This is not how rape accusations work in the real world. I'm sorry. We have to get over this. The idea that this means nothing until like the police get involved. Police don't even fucking test rape kits, dog. You go to the police and you're like, oh, I got raped. And they're like, okay, here's a test. Come back in 72 months when we're finished testing it. Like, it's not the standard we hold these to.
Ability to do so are using these allegations as an excuse to take away all of the things that we need to run a campaign. We are going to lose our ability to fundraise. We are going to lose our ability to access voter data. We are going to lose all of the things that any campaign needs on the basic level simply to function.
You're dropping out.
Larger organizations, the national level party, the bigger donor networks, they have all committed to spending no money in this race if I'm in it. They would...
I think everyone should be treated as innocent until proven guilty. Okay, so like Trump has not been convicted of pedophilia. Trump has not been convicted of child molestation. Should we not call him a pedophile? Matt Gaetz has not been... Like, what's the standard here? Come on. Use your fucking head.
Rather see Susan Collins win than have me be the next senator from Maine.
Trump was convicted of many things, though. Not of the shit we talk about him over, you know, the Epstein stuff, the Little St. James stuff. That is not backed by a conviction in a court of law. We have a preponderance of evidence that makes a lot of people look extremely bad, but these motherfuckers, famously, if you've been paying attention, have not been charged.
What comes next?
Isn't it just the E.G. and Carroll case? Yes, but that's civil liability for sexual assault, not a criminal conviction for child molestation and everything else.
Needs to come from the people. Needs to come from the people of Maine. Needs to come from the voters.
Oh, cool. I tune in to Bosch defending Trump. What do you people? You can't be doing this to me while I left my slip-on moccasins over at Blue Owl. You can't be doing this to me while I'm still thinking about that.
Who on June 9th, at a strength of over 150,000, the largest number in the history of Maine primaries, said no to this kind of politics. Voted for a politics that would actually represent them. Voted against the political system, against the donor class, against the entrenched forces. And I'm not asking for how this process is going to work. I'm not trying to dictate to anyone who it should be or how we get there, but I will say this. It needs to be open, transparent, and democratic. It needs to be reflecting the will and...
Seems it's not going to be.
...the values of the people that built this movement, the people that showed up on June 9th. People in D.C. need to stay in D.C. Decisions should not be made
All
in
right,
back
okay, that's a
rooms
lot of
by
tech, Messiah.
people
Hold
in
on,
places
hold
of
on.
political power. Party apparatchiks are not the ones to make these decisions. These decisions need to be made in the open by the people of this state, the people who got us here. This is exactly...
She says she messaged him on Instagram and said that what happened wasn't consensual, but later deleted the chat so couldn't recover it. I don't know how Instagram blocking people works. I don't use Instagram. If you block a person on Instagram, does that delete your chat history? Or if you like lose an account or something? What happens to yes? If you block a person on Insta, you lose the chat history? Okay, people are saying no. Sometimes. Okay, you're not being helpful. It's changed a couple times since this happens. Like the rules on Instagram. Yeah, I guess it was like 5 years ago.
The kind of political system that everyone voted against on June 9th. And for that reason, we need to be assured that it is going to be open and democratic as we move forward.
She said she deleted the messages to move past it. I would need more specific denials from his part to even begin to engage with this. You know what I mean? Like, what is his explanation for why they had a relationship and then they went no contact and she messaged him, but the messages aren't there. And then they stopped talking. Like, what's the explanation? Like, we need like an alternative narrative here. It's not like like if they had just met at a party and then she made these accusations, you wouldn't really have a bunch of like context to explain. But two people being in a relationship and then ending it suddenly, that leaves like reverberations, you know? There's usually like, there's an imprint left behind on the people around you, on friends of yours, you know? From the Politico article, Rascote said she waited several weeks until she got her period to ensure he wasn't pregnant, then sent Platner a private message on Instagram saying the encounter was not consensual and she did not want to hear from him ever again. Yeah, like he would have memory of that. Is he saying that message was never sent? Like, he says every claim made is false. So is he saying he was never sent a message? Why'd the relationship end then? Did he ever have a relationship with her? Is he saying he never did? Is he saying that's made up? Like, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, like he's not providing anything to work with. He's just saying, nuh-uh.
Amy and I struggled about getting into this. Last summer, right around this time of year, we sat down and we looked at each other and we said, if we believe in the kind of politics we think that we do, we have to do this. Over the past couple days, really yesterday and today, we have had to have...
He'd be in a far better position if he admitted drunk sex, but it wasn't rape. He's actually retarded. But also, I mean, like if he was drunk, he couldn't really like credibly claim it wasn't rape if he was like blackout drunk, if he doesn't remember. But at the same time, like again, yeah, not knowing what he's actually saying happened or didn't happen. And if it was just regular drunk sex, why did she stop talking to him after?
That exact same conversation. We believe that for the movement to continue, it can't be me. And for that reason, we are suspending campaign operations. This is incredibly difficult because I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not. We're not doing it because of the allegations, we're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away from us by those in power. And I also feel an immense amount of responsibility to everyone who has worked so hard to get us to where we are.
I mean, I think he's legitimately upset. Yeah, I mean, again, like, but I think the most likely read on this is that he doesn't think that he raped her. He was blackout drunk. Even according to her account, like, he didn't remember afterwards. So from his, like, you know, it's like at the apex of your life when you're about to become a U.S. senator, all of a sudden you're told that you raped someone, but you don't even remember. I'm not surprised he doesn't believe it happened. It's just that, you know.
We went toe-to-toe with one of the most entrenched political systems in the history of the world, and we won.
It is true that, like, this is part, not specifically the rape accusations, but like the broader narrative about Platner versus the DNC in Maine is like a story of institutional effort to suppress him. I just feel like he's doing that effort a lot of disservice. He's damaging that narrative by tying it in this context.
We beat them on June 9th in overwhelming numbers. We did it the right way. We built a campaign. We engaged in electoral politics. We motivated people. We banded together. We did it the way that we were told we are supposed to make change. And we won. And now they are not going to let us have it. Not if it's me. And so we're suspending campaign operations.
Like it's not even unambiguously the narrative here is just like this is all fake and manufactured by like Israel or whatever. It's so conspiratorial. There's not even like a hint of I disagree with her assessment of the situation, but I'm sorry if I hurt her or whatever. Like just total disengagement with the accusation. The video is not even about that really.
Make clear though, I intend to file my paperwork to withdraw. The process needs to assure that what comes next is reflective of the Mainers who on June 9th turned out and showed that they are desperate for a different kind of politics. It needs to be driven not from back rooms, but by the will of the people. And the decisions that come next must come from that. All we were asking for was health care, was to end a genocide, to use our taxpayer dollars at home to uplift our communities instead of waging war overseas. We were asking for a fair system.
He's awfully concerned about his replacement. Well, yeah, I think that he's politically progressive. It makes sense that he wouldn't want to be replaced by... Again, I feel like a lot of people in chat have two switches here, and it's either like morally sterling warrior for socialism or super duper ultra deep state grifter who believes in nothing. We think we've hit like an intersection here where he is legitimately progressive, but also is and has been a bad person. I don't really get any grift vibes off him.
We're asking for an end to the corruption, the end to the money in politics.
I slept well. That's the last message you're all capsing at me.
Democracy, and we did it the right way, and we won. But now the ball is in the court of the Democratic establishment. My name might be on the ballot right now, but that ballot line belongs to the people of Maine. And on November 3rd, it needs to belong to the people of Maine. And the next Democratic senator for Maine needs to belong to the people of Maine. They need to reflect the will and the values of the people of this state. I love this state.
Of course, I mean, he's not wrong. It's just that's not why he's dropping out. Like, what he's saying here isn't incorrect. Like, people didn't ignore Platner's red flags. They saw them and still picked him in overwhelming numbers over Mills, a widely unpopular candidate that Schumer forced onto the field after clearing everyone else. Like, it's not the lefties or whatever. The people of Maine chose him over Mills by a huge margin.
I love Maine, and I love Mainers in ways that I can't really describe. I'm immensely proud of what we have built, and I have the utmost faith that we will continue to build, and we will continue to move towards a better future. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank all of you. And keep fighting. We're going to win someday.
Oh, that was long. This is really bringing out like a lot of mental illness. Is there any actual evidence? Texts between therapists don't count if you can say anything to a therapist. There actual evidence. There actual evidence. That's not how evidence works. You don't understand evidence. Telling therapists evidence. Talk to her. A therapist isn't the only person she talked to. She has a friend. It was in the Politico article. She has a friend she talked to about Platner, where she referred to the incident years ago. Michael Tracy's burner, or Ryan Grimm. Oh wow, a friend, you can never lie to a friend. Okay, out of curiosity, why do you think she would lie to a friend about Graham Platner years before he ran for a campaign? Are you suggesting that, like, she knew he might run for Senate in the future and set this up? Or are you suggesting that, like, her perception of the events from the get-go is flawed? Or she did it maliciously? Like, what's the implication here? Why would she do that? Angry exes are a thing? Yeah, but his response is that all of this is fake and none of it happened. So, like, what's his version of events? What, like, why they were dating and then they just suddenly stopped? She stopped contacting him and then afterwards referred to him being, quote, consensually careless. So, like, so making up for attention? Ah, okay, gotcha. All right. Damn, you're gonna. I chafe a little bit sometimes at the oft-repeated suggestion that the left is as bad about these issues as the right, because I don't think that's true. But sometimes you people do put in the effort. You know, the vibe I get from these commenters trying to excuse Platner is they're super personally attached to him winning this election. They legitimately can't handle the idea of him. Well, they can't handle the idea of like the deep state getting him out. The fact that Politico dropped the article, that it wasn't just like an organic discovery of his bad behavior, but that it was specifically dropped by a Zionist outlet that lies. Politico does lie, of course it lies. That really chafes them, you know? Of course, Politico is delighted that they got to be the ones to drop this. Oh, they're very, very happy. But that doesn't make the accusation, like, false, you know? I appreciate you're trying to dissect some of these messages, but they're so shallow in bad faith. Yeah, but like a lot of people are shallow in bad faith about this. Like a lot of people are, like, let's be real. In online politics, 80% of the conversational participants at a minimum are men. And one of your greatest fears is that, like, because you saw a Reddit post about it 2 years ago, you're afraid that, like, a girl's going to accuse you of raping her because you brushed her shoulder too hard while, like, making out with her or something. Like, there's a lot of really dumbass MGTOW MRA bullshit in online politics because a lot of the people who participate in online politics are young men, and young men are retards, and have really, really, really fucking stupid opinions. And might be, like, nominally feminist. They might agree with feminist political outcomes. What's MGTOW men going their own way? Don't worry about it. They might be, like, politically progressive when it comes to gender issues, but then interpersonally they end up repeating a lot of the stuff that Weinstein was coasting off of for decades. So, like, that's why I'm engaging with it, you know? Like, if you think that women make up rape accusations and subject themselves to the scrutiny of a nationally important political race for no reason other than because they want attention, you are mentally ill. Like, that you have a mental illness. Like, I guess the easiest way to counter this is to ask, would you do it? Like, there are political candidates you hate. Why not lie and say they raped you? Do you like Ted Cruz? Why not say you met Ted Cruz at a party and he raped you in the ass? Why don't you do it? If it's so easy to go public with an accusation and subject yourself to the enormous media scrutiny of being like a, you know, accusing a powerful political entity of rape, why not just do it? You could do it. Why not do it? Oh, you haven't? Oh, it's like, oh, it like never happens. It's actually like really disruptive to your life, and you probably don't want to spend like the rest of your life being known as a person who was raped. Like that's not like a dream to you. Oh, okay. Genuinely sad we have to spend time teaching this. Well, you know, I age, but every year a billion new, you know, 16-year-old boys hear the Soviet anthem earrape.mp3 on YouTube, and then they get involved in politics. So you do have to keep repeating. There's never going to be a point where every human is just going to intuitively understand morals and politics and stuff. You do have to keep relitigating. Wasn't Monica Lewinsky treated super well by the public? Famously, yeah. Do you think somebody made her come out with it? How could anyone make her come out with it? What leverage would they have? She only mentioned it to like a therapist, a friend, maybe some other people. Like, who would make her come out with it? She initially went to the New York Times and contributed her story anonymously. And the reason it wasn't taken so seriously was because it was anonymous, which does you know, make it easier to make false accusations if it's an anonymous accusation. I don't really know how anyone could make her come out with it. Like, I'm sure after she made the anonymous accusation, there were media outlets banging down her door asking her for more info because that's their job. But like, how would they make her? All she'd have to do is say no, fuck off, and that's that. Like, what leverage they have? In the interview with Jake Tapper, she talked about it like it would inevitably come out. Well, she had already contributed the information anonymously, yeah. I'm sure that there were journalists sniffing around, asking her friends, asking for more information. Investigative journalism might be dead, but they can pull out the stops for a big juicy story, especially if it means like taking on a progressive candidate. She also didn't say in that anonymous report she was raped, just a vague statement about a bad experience. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's every accusation, but I'm not going to act like there aren't mentally ill women who would do this. I just don't think she's lying here. Okay, I'm happy to hear you don't think she's lying here. In truth, there are vanishingly few examples of false rape accusations affecting a political campaign, which is interesting because if it was as easy as people think it is, they would do it way more often. Like, the DNC would be paying hookers $10 each to go to the media with their stories. Like, it's so easy to here's $100, okay? Go to Politico and say that in 2017 Platner like raped you in an alley. Oh, you know, it doesn't matter if you substantiate it, people believe you. In truth, it just doesn't happen that often. Like, at all, basically. And the reason for that is because there's an enormous social burden to going public with any kind of accusation, false or otherwise. If it was that easy to pull that one out, I promise you it would be employed in their toolbox more often. Yeah, Mamdani would have been accused of being a rapist like 50 times. You think they wouldn't have pulled it on him? They would have found every fucking shameless Zionist looking to make like $50 in New York City and been like, yeah, he raped me back here whenever, you know. Like, it is not a oft employed technique. Did you see Trump defending Platner? Yeah, rapists tend to stick together. It's the reason why Richard Hanania and Michael Tracy are like super duper doubling down to defend him, even though they didn't really like him beforehand anyway. But yeah, he literally said it's a question of whether or not you believe the woman. A lot of people say big falsehoods. Like, of course he would, yeah, defend a rapist. I mean, he's like the guy. I feel like the other side of the discussion is more interesting and complex. Seeing Platner as a demon that can't have progressive values because he's a rapist seems reactionary-like to me. Well, it's born of the same like essentialist thinking that people had that led to them thinking the Nazis were like a unique and exceptional political force that couldn't be replicated elsewhere. When in reality, like, no, you know? In reality, like, people are fairly predictable under consistent social circumstances, at least at large, like in groups, right, on average. And you can get all kinds of wacky outcomes. The idea that like a person who is politically good can't be personally bad, it's very dumb. Also, you people are setting yourselves up to be like abused pretty bad. This happens to so many goddamn queer people who are like, oh, I'm 18, I've left my abusive parents, let me go shack up with this queer positive person who's 10 years older than me across the country. And then it's like, oh wow, they're an abuser, who could have guessed, except for like everyone over the age of 30. Basically. And it's like, no, they can't be an abuser. They're like queer positive. They're politically progressive. Yeah, it really doesn't have a lot. No. They're sincere about it. Yeah, it still doesn't have a lot to do with how good of a person they are. Literally happened to my sibling, except with toxic queer molecules. Many such cases. Here's my steel man. We really don't need it. Something that happened that night she didn't think was worth making a public statement about, but then once journalists started sniffing around, someone blackmailed her. Nobody blackmailed her. I guarantee you, nobody blackmailed her. It did not happen. This is a movie plot contrivance. This is not happening. Nobody is out there blackmailing rape victims into sharing their stories. The degree of like risk you're taking on for potentially no benefit, it's they're not doing that. It's not necessary. What would they blackmail her with? She's like a normal woman. Unless she's raped someone. The conspiracy goes deeper than we thought. It's an infinite cycle. It's everyone in Maine. She has 2 Nazi tattoos. Fuck! Got tricked. Well, they are just evil, Masaigo, yeah. That is true, though. Alright, well, anyway. Graham Platner has dropped out, or he is going to drop out on Monday, which is the last day that he can drop out, and the DNC is going to pick his replacement, which is great. Great. Troy Jackson is running. He's the DSA-approved candidate for governor. He is vetted. He is good. As you can see, he looks very no nonsense. He does look like he would have you like dropped in the river for getting in his way. Like that's just kind of a like read on his face, not necessarily a read on his like personality or political stances. He has a bunch of local endorsements, so that's cool. Isn't he second in polling? Right now, at this moment, he is actually polling favorably to Collins. If the DNC picks Troy Jackson, I think it is relatively possible, not necessarily likely, but relatively possible that he wins. It really depends on how good he hits that that ground game, you know, after he gets on in. Kind of hard to say. But if the DNC picks a Mills-like candidate, I think that they will lose. In fact, I know that they will lose. But will they pick him? I don't know. Let me see if I can't find that polling. Yeah, I don't really know how reliable this is. This is a pretty small sample size, and it also got rushed out very quickly. I know that Troy Jackson is popular, and he doesn't have a lot of, like, bad rep. This is another one that I saw from 1 hour ago where Collins leads Troy Jackson by only 1 point. This is a fixable problem. Leading him by only 1 point is nothing considering the fact that he hasn't even run yet. Like he hasn't even formally signed the papers. How old is that pic of her? Older than I am. He also isn't a rapist, right? Well, we didn't know that Platner was a rapist until after he ran. I think that if we knew Troy Jackson was a rapist, he probably wouldn't have, like, that hype on him. We can only hope, huh? Full spread on that? Yeah, I don't know these candidates. Shanna Bellows is the one, I think. Isn't that the one that Platner is endorsing? Or am I thinking of somebody else here? No, I don't think that's the one Platner is endorsing. Different person? Okay, different person. And I don't know who Neera Shah is. Have you seen his campaign website? Troy Jackson? If you look up Troy Jackson on Google, at least for me, and I've never looked him up before, the first thing I see is Troy Jackson allegations. The third thing I see is Troy Jackson water bottle. God help. God help us all. Got that website set up real quick. Can you please inform chat it's a lie? Yes, that is the water bottle thing is not true. He's been in state politics for 20 years, and he is known for being very easy to work with. He has kind of that look. Why is the Jackson allegation false, but the Platner allegation is true? Hold on, let me check your chat history for 1 second to see if this is worth engaging with. Okay, you're just a bit of the you're the Quizler. You're just asking you just put a question mark in front of any statement. The Puzzler, 5th generation logger from Allagash. Positions page? Positions page? Do we have a positions page? Well, he's DSA backed. The convention delegate distribution is favorable to Jackson. It heavily weighs the districts Jackson's had close working relationships for a long time. Well, I really hope they go with him. It is true that the main Democratic convention, like delegates they're picking from, it's not like the DNC directly picks. Like Schumer is not doing the pick. It's the main DNC, and the main DNC is not the same as the DNC nationally. Do you trust the DSA? For Christ's sake, they endorsed Platner? No, they didn't. Actually, they very notably did not endorse. They specifically did not endorse Platner. They knew something? Well, he wasn't like, he just showed up. He just ran. Here he is talking about Palestine. Oh, this is from like just a few hours ago. This is unconscionable. Anyone with eyes and a heart knows the Israeli government's committing genocide in Gaza. It has to end. We Americans will have the power to end it. When I'm in the Senate, I'll never vote in favor of U.S. taxpayer-funded military aid to Israel. I mean, that's good. I'm happy about that. Broken clock. He's not a broken clock. He's a DSA candidate. Oh, that was from 4 minutes ago. Yeah, it's a functioning clock. Pro-Medicare for all. Running for my campaign. Why are so many people knee-jerk attacking DSA? I don't know. I've always been, my harshest criticism of DSA has always been like, I think they would be more effective if they were like less federated, and also sometimes their meetings are cringy because you have a bunch of like woke one types in there. But everyone's just referencing that one DSA meeting from like 2020 or whatever. I feel like it's time we moved on. The last notable thing DSA did is get the most popular politician in America, Zohran Mamdani, elected against a uniparty. Like, the DSA has racked up a series of wins lately that I feel easily overwhelm any, like, oh, here's a cringe video from 5 years ago. I feel like what are we doing at this point? Oh, some DSA people are cringe? That's great. You are too. You're literally fucking annoying. You're a chatter. He's also the longtime Senate president. He's not coming out of nowhere. He has the advantage of having deep state politics connections. Yeah, no, I'm bullish on him. I am. I think that I thought this was just a wash for Collins, but if they pick him, I think we have a chance. I think we might still get this Senate seat. Ban flock cameras in Maine. Ro Khanna endorsement, effectively. I assume phone bank with PV. I don't know what PV is up to right now. He hasn't even formally filed the paperwork. So, like, we'll see what the opportunities are once that happens. He has filed the paperwork. Well, he has to be picked by the DNC. Sorry. He filed the paperwork. The DNC needs to select him. To support that point, Collins is reportedly very upset Platner has dropped out. I mean, they probably would have preferred it if, like, the most scandal-ridden human alive, apart from Donald Trump, was, you know, their opponent. Do you work for PV or are you just collabing? I do not work for PV. We're not even collabing. They're a canvassing organization. I am a live streamer. I direct people to them to do canvassing and phone banking because I don't lead those efforts. Do you think the main DNC would be evil enough to not select Troy just to spite Platner? Well, the delegates making this pick are not necessarily all like deep state plants. It's not like the New York State Party or whatever on Platner not filing paperwork until Monday. I don't know why he's waiting until Monday. What if he just doesn't do it? Negotiating the Afghanistan story, probably. Yeah, we still haven't seen what that is. I don't know if that got, like, buried or if this was just rumor milling from the beginning or whatever, but, like, yeah, the rumor that there's some extra story out there about stuff that his unit did in Iraq. Or no, sorry, it was his military unit in Afghanistan or the mercenaries he worked with in Iraq. Yeesh. Interview of Troy Jackson. Yeah, let's take a look at Troy Jackson for a bit, huh?
Joining me now is one of the candidates positioning himself as a potential replacement for Graham Platner on the ballot in Maine, former state senator and former gubernatorial candidate Troy.
Do you think we owe an apology to AOC since she was right about Platner? No, because, like, you owe apologies to friends or people you know. What I assume you're saying is, do you think that AOC was right in retrospect? I don't know whether AOC's internal process for determining whether to associate herself with Platner was good or bad, because, like, I do doubt her process in many cases, but there's no denying that her outcome was correct here. So I'm not going to make a big fuss about it, you know? She ended up being right.
Jackson, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it also.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. You've said you believe that Graham Platner will drop out and that it would be self-serving if he doesn't. Have you spoken directly with Graham Platner or his campaign? Do you expect him to drop out today?
I haven't spoken with Graham for probably 10 days or so, but I do expect him to drop out. I don't know if he's going to do it today or not. I have no knowledge, but I mean, it's clear that he has to drop out, and the sooner the better, so that we can pick up the pieces and go forward with the movement that has gotten so strong here in Maine. You know, things like Medicare for all, workers' rights, prescription drugs. I mean, trying to do something about this war, and that's why it's important for him. And I do think he's going to step down.
Well, you have filed paperwork to explore replacing Platner on the ballot after your bid for governor was unsuccessful earlier this year. A group aligned with Senator Sanders has endorsed you as the replacement. Today, Dan Kleben, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, announced that he's throwing his hat into the ring. Why do you think you're the better pick?
Well, I mean, it's about the issues that, are really happening here in Maine now for, something I've been wanting my entire life since I've been, up on the border back in '98, fighting for workers' rights then. Right now, we got people across the state that want a different government.
For a guy who's been in politics for 20 years, he doesn't really sound like it. There are lots of good people in the Democratic Party at a local level. I've said this many times. You basically have to be an evil piece of shit to succeed in at the U.S. Congress level, but at a state and municipal level, there are tons of just like normal people who are trying their best. They are not individually powerful enough that their progressivism gets in the way of the broader machine of capital, so they're allowed to exist.
Want healthcare. They want wealthy billionaires not to get all these breaks and things like that, and they want lower fuel and gas prices. And so my life has been dedicated to fighting for these things, and people, do know that. And I think the fact that, I did just come through this gubernatorial campaign with a lot less money than my opponents, but I still won Aroostook County, where Senator Collins is from. I won Bangor, I won Portland. So I'm the only candidate that's demonstrated that I can win statewide with
other
conservative Republicans and, urban young people that are much more liberal. So that's why I believe I'm the best one. But it is important to understand that it is about the issues that I'm running on. That's what I care about. That's what I want to see continue to happen. And that's why I'm jumping in this race.
And what do you think the nomination process should look like? Because we are talking about a tiny window to replace Graham Platner.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And I've dealt with this, in the state Senate races and things like that. We've never seen anything like this. This is completely, off charts. But what is important is that we have an open, fair, transparent process that everyone feels like they were heard.
We're not
and gets
that.
an opportunity to be heard. And that is what I'm going to fight for, because I don't believe, I want these issues to come forward. I want people to continue to feel like Democrats are fighting for them. But I don't want party insiders to pick candidates or anything like that.
He's got an interesting history. He was born to a 16-year-old mother, so that's a class signifier if ever I've heard one, sorry. He's been involved in Maine local politics for ages and ages. So, that indicates a pretty strong real interest in the subject. Helped lead a logging blockade across the Maine-Canada border. First ran for Maine House of Reps as a Republican in 2000. Narrowly lost. 2 years later, he was elected as an independent, the first non-Democrat to represent the area since 1978, but he joined the Democratic Party in early 2004. And since then, he's just been a straight Democrat. What the hell? In June 2013, Jackson called Governor Paul LePage obstructionist and delusional regarding discussions about the 2013 to 2014 state budget. LePage responded by saying Jackson, quote, claims to be for the people, but he's the first one to give it to the people without providing Vaseline. As well as saying Jackson is a bad person with no brains and a black heart. In August 2016, Jackson angered LePage again, calling him racist, and LePage responded by calling Jackson a son of a bitch socialist cocksucker. Damn! They're out. They're duking it out down here. Jesus. Local politics is pretty nasty, yeah. On March 7th, 2025, Jackson announced he was formally exploring a run for governor of Maine in a 2026 election. On May 19th, he formally announced his campaign at a launch event at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Kittery, Maine. He said he was running on behalf of working-class Mainers who feel under attack from billionaires, special interests, and their friends who control Washington. Endorsements from 40 local labor unions, high-profile national progressives like Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, and he was endorsed by the Mi'kmaq, maybe, Tribal Council, who cited Jackson's longtime support for tribal sovereignty and his establishing a commission to examine the 1980 Maine Indians Claims Settlements Act as a reason for their endorsement. Mi'kmaq, with like a G sound? Mi'kmaq? Advocate for healthcare and workers' rights. Initially held socially conservative positions on both abortion rights and on LGBTQ rights, but in May 2009, can't talk, Jackson voted against a state legislative bill to legalize same-sex marriage in Maine. In 2012, he identified as anti-abortion. He attributed his views at the time to his Roman Catholic upbringing, though eventually he changed his positions, becoming a staunch supporter of both. This is actually like very, very, very bullish in Maine. Maine is not a deep blue. Like, Maine is a chud state, you know? So, like, guy who used to be a homophobe and anti-abortion because he's Roman Catholic, but then came around, that's a solid, like, cultural signifier, I think. It's much more representative of Maine, I guess, you know? Like, the average person in Maine who is over 40 and is pro-LGBTQ probably wasn't 20 years ago, you know? What's the statute of limitations for being homophobic? Can I be real with you? I have way more respect for people who are homophobic because they were raised like Catholic and conservative, but over time changed their views, than fucking pieces of shit like Obama and Hillary Clinton, who were always fine with gay people and always had like no problem partying with them in their New York villas or fucking like, you know, college parties, but pretended to not be pro-gay marriage because it wasn't politically feasible. I have infinitely more respect for a person who's actually like moved over on this than people who were so consultant brain that they hid it for years and years until finally the needle tipped over 51%. Apparently, Platner's campaign was also broke. Platner stopped receiving donations, or like his donations really started to dry up after a point, and I think a big part of that is because people have always been trepidatious around him. Mainers were willing to take a risk with him over Mills, but that's not quite the same as the kind of overwhelming enthusiasm that leads you to give your money away, you know? Platner's campaign just had 1.3 million in the bank. That is not a lot. 1.3 million next to Collins's 10 million war chest as of late May. Obviously, like, Troy Jackson isn't going to be able to outraise Collins either. Collins has, like, the whole deep state at her back, but, you know, Hopefully Troy Jackson's able to like really pull it through. We do have 4 months. Did PV get money to Platner? PV is a canvassing org, not like a super PAC dono funneling machine. I don't think they gave any money to Platner. I don't actually know what happens to Platner's money. I don't know if it gets reimbursed. I think it depends on like state law. Well, that money was raised in concert with the DNC through Act Blue, so my assumption is that that money is getting dissolved and reincorporated into Troy Jackson. Well, no. It goes to Israel. It goes to Israel. And where does the money go for memberships, for PV? To paying the employees of PV. They have a couple of logistics people who work like full-time to coordinate canvassing efforts. PV manages canvassing all across the United States. Like, they have stuff going on everywhere, and it takes a lot of work to coordinate that. It's not just about phone banking. You actually need like a back-end logistical network to make sure those phone calls are going where they're needed. You don't just open a phone book and call every phone number with like the area number from the area you're trying to phone bank in, you know? And where does the logistic people's money go? I think they like use it for rent or groceries or whatever. Is there a good way to volunteer a phone bank for Troy Jackson? Not until he's picked by the DNC, if he is picked by the main DNC. So that's what we're praying for right now. Right now, the most you can do to help out in the Senate race is like cross your fingers and scream to the heavens on social media how badly you want Troy Jackson. Retweet that motherfucker up to the heavens. Make it clear that this is the guy who has the momentum. We really, 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 really need him to be the pick. I don't think anybody else has a chance, not even close. Isn't door-to-door more effective than phone banking, generally speaking? They serve different purposes, but also phone banking is way cheaper. Like, for the cost of going door-to-door, you can do phone banking much, much cheaper and easier, but they're both important. Canvassing is better for showing like a community effort, for showing that there's local momentum and energy. Phone banking is mostly for just reminding people to vote. You don't usually change people's minds over phone banking. You call people who are like less informed or less motivated voters, and you're like, hey, do you have a plan to vote? This is why it's important, da-da-da. You know, also, yeah, you can phone bank from anywhere, but canvassing, you have to do, door-to-door canvassing, you have to do like, you know, physically there, which is obviously a bit of a limitation. Did you not say they would rather lose than give in to the left? The they I was referring to was the Democratic, the national DSCC, not the main Democratic Party. The main DNC and their delegates are not as evil as Schumer and his ilk. Dumb question, how come phone banking works so well when most people don't pick up random unknown numbers? It works as well as it can in spite of that fact. People don't really pick up random numbers anymore, but if they do, then you talk to them. That's all you can do. You just keep calling.